Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Movie Battleground. My name is Aaron Knoll and I'll be your host and judge for today. And today we have a very exciting match because, the last couple weeks since the start of this league, we've spent introducing new players and bringing in the first players to get the records going. But now we have returning. These are the first two players to get a win within our league. We'll introduce the first one first. He is currently 1-0 with a knockout against his first opponent, Subrath Sharma. Evan DeGraff. Evan, how you doing?
The only one with a knockout. This guy almost lost to Chris Clark, who almost loses to Chris Clark. I mean, come on. This is gonna be easy. Don't even tell me about it.
All right, then, and his opponent, he basically spoiled any introduction I could have given it to him. According to Evan, yes, he almost lost to Chris Clark, but he still beat him, so it doesn't matter. Luca Fallon. Luca, how you doing?
This is going to hurt like a chest waxing for Evan DeGraff here. I don't think that you win credit by...
Evan's not old enough to know what that is.
I don't think you win credit by knocking out Subrath Sharma. I think you lose credit by going up to play him in the first place. I'm not worried.
And with that, Luca never plays a match after this, but let's do this.
I was in the first real match that was actually a match, not an exhibition.
All right, then. Shots fired already. This is what I like to see.
I would call Chris Clark an exhibition. Let's make things clear. He knows how to say that.
Let's make something super clear, Evan. Weren't you the one that trained him for that match?
Yeah, I know. It was tough.
All right, guys. So we have two winners here, and let's get started. So the first question we have in today's match is, obviously, we only have a couple months left in the year 2017, but we still have some big movies that are yet to come. And so I decided to ask the question, obviously with the summer season being over now, what blockbuster are you looking forward to most in the rest of 2017? And we're going to go ahead and let Luca go first. Luca, go ahead and give your opening statements.
I think that sort of looking at the next few months, there's a lot of things that sort of kind of seem like going through the motions. It's kind of sort of slightly predictable looking movies. And then you've got this weird kind of blot with Thor Ragnarok, which is my choice because Thor Ragnarok was so interesting and so sort of kooky and zany and like so much fun, like the same kind of sort of out there wacky tone that I sort of got from watching the trailers for the original Guardians of the Galaxy. This looks like the one to me that is going to be just like the most kind of fun, enjoyable ride. Everything else looks kind of muted and dialed down a bit, and I'm not as excited in that kind of visceral way. So I'm going with Thor Ragnarok.
All right, and Evan, go ahead and give your opening statements.
90,000 people were all in one arena. We're all in one arena in Orlando, 2017, when a special trailer dropped. 90,000 people stopped whatever they're doing. They even stopped Mark Hamill from lecturing them to watch this trailer. The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi is by far, the most anticipated movie this year for a plethora of reasons. J.J. Abrams did a terrific job at the end of The Force Awakens to end us on a cliffhanger, something that none of us really expected. We thought, Luke Skywalker was going to have a good time, and, we thought he was actually going to get some real dialogue, some real screen time. No. We have to wait for this movie, and it's coming. The way how they're setting up this whole, it's not going to be dark, but it's going to be deeper storytelling. We're finally going to see Luke come on screen again. Us as fans have been waiting this forever, and not even to mention the director, Rian Johnson. We just heard that J.J. Abrams is coming back on for 9. Do you want to know who their first choice was? It was Rian Johnson, because from what we know, The Last Jedi is possibly going to be the best new age Star Wars movies to come out. So I don't know how you can give an answer other than The Last Jedi.
With that, Luca is going to have to prove why he gave another answer besides Last Jedi, apparently. Guys, because this is your first fight and probably the biggest one, you guys are going to have 6 minutes on the clock to argue this one out.
Okay.
Is that a problem?
No, it's good to go.
Okay, so here's the thing about The Last Jedi. which really gives me pause. And you've said things like, oh, Luke Skywalker didn't speak till the end of Force Awakens, which is a really good point. There is still so much of a capacity to fuck up all of the things in The Last Jedi. There are still so many questions that could be answered with disappointing, flat answers. I enjoy The Force Awakens, fine, but it left a lot of loose ends, which are good first parts.
I have a question for you. Since when has Rian Johnson ever been disappointing? Can you answer that? Because I don't think he's ever had. Like I feel like that's a ridiculous claim to make. Rian Johnson, Looper, just go down his filmography and you'll be shocked. This guy is a brilliant filmmaker.
Brick and Brothers Bloom are not great movies. Let's be completely honest. He's made movies that aren't fantastic. I don't think Brick is all that good. I don't think Brothers Bloom is great. I think he's made movies that aren't so good. But the thing is, it's not just Rian Johnson we're talking about here. We're also talking about a lot of studio interference. And the thing about Lucasfilm at the moment is that the studio interference has been causing a lot of concerns. They had to fire Gordon Miller. They've had this issue with Trevorrow. It's a kind of shaky house in Lucasfilm at the moment. The thing with Marvel is that they've not had that same kind of internal struggle because they've gotten good filmmakers to make good movies. The thing about Thor Ragnarok, you've got a director like Taika Waititi who made Hunt for the Wilderpeople and Boy and What We Do in the Shadows, which are all fun, interesting, different movies. And that's the thing. The Last Jedi, not only is it a kind of a risky movie from a quality perspective, it's not a very risky movie from a content and tone-looking perspective. It looks like to have so much of the kind of similar stuff that Force Awakens had, along with the kind of cutesy aspects from Return of the Jedi with like the porgs, which just look odd and out of place.
Wait a minute. Hold up. Not risky. Not risky?
Definitely not risky.
Do you know what? Dude, hold on. I have to take my sunglasses off for a second here. Not risky. We are talking about a movie that has a female as the lead. So
like The Force Awakens, which did incredibly well.
Wait a second. Two colored actors who are now part of the big lead, and now bringing in old nostalgia to make it sound new. Do you know what was the issue with The Force Awakens or Star Trek 09? The issue is it was too focused on the nostalgia. Rian Johnson is nothing like that. Anything that he's directed has been nothing like that, and the story that they're progressing towards has nothing. The nostalgia is almost being thrown out the window. It's
focusing on Luke Skywalker, who's the main character of the original trilogy. How is that throwing the nostalgia out of the window? As opposed to Thor Ragnarok, which is genuinely taking things in a new and different direction. How do you know it's being told in a new way? How do you know that?
Look at the trailers. Look at anything that
trailers look like a Star Wars trailer. They look like any other Star Wars trailer. It looks like
there you go. It looks like a Star Wars trailer. It looks like a Star Wars trailer. It doesn't look like a prequel trailer. It doesn't look like a Rogue One trailer. It doesn't look like a Force Awakens trailer. But
it looks like all of those things.
I completely disagree.
It looks like a Force Awakens trailer. It's very similar in terms to a Rogue One trailer.
But give me a second. Let's pick apart Thor Ragnarok here, because here's the issue. You said it yourself. It looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. It looks like fun. It's following the freaking Marvel formula like it does all the time.
It's really not following the Marvel formula. Taika Waititi is not a Marvel formula director. Nor
are the Russo brothers, but look at Civil War and look at Winter Soldier.
They made the best Marvel movies.
But they made the best of them. Formula. Like we can go in and expect what to see. Like,
wait, sorry, what did you say?
We're gonna go in and we already know what we're gonna get. We're gonna get a fun movie that doesn't break any lines or doesn't break any boundaries, and that is
completely untrue. The tone in the Thor Ragnarok trailers is so far out, and like you've got things like Thor going to different planets, which is something we haven't seen. One of the core Avengers do.
Guardians of the Galaxy, though, they have their template.
Core Avengers.
They have their template for it.
And Star Wars doesn't. Star Wars has much more significant a template. You've got much more out there stuff in Thor Ragnarok. You've got we got to see what Hulk's up to, which we haven't seen in ages. Sorry, what was that?
There's so much more on the line. If there's so much more on the line with the Last Jedi, because if they mess this one up, which I doubt with every single bone in my body because of the way how the script's writing and because of the impacts that I don't want to bring it up, but Carrie Fisher's death has. They said it themselves, we can't touch episode 8. That's a near perfect movie. They did not touch her role in it. They have to change it in 9. They're not changing her role in 8 because they've said it themselves. That is a near perfect movie.
Yeah, the studio that's made the movie says it's a near perfect movie. But you've said that Rian Johnson has never put a foot wrong as a director. That's not really the case. Brick is not a great movie. He's made films that aren't so good. Taika Waititi, all of the films that Taika Waititi made have been at least entertaining, fun, enjoyable, good movies, right? You said that Thor Ragnarok is what we've seen before, and it's not. It's much more of this kind of interspace adventure with a core Avenger character going through the 9 realms.
I'm having issues with your argument here of it's new, different, and a thing, because you just said it with yourself. You know, the director makes good, enjoyable, fun movies. They're not groundbreaking. Looper was a groundbreaking movie.
Looper was a standard sci-fi movie that owed a significant debt to things like Blade Runner and the sci-fi novels of the 60s.
But it changed the game. It changed the game.
How did it change the game? How did it change the game?
It dropped people's mouths. People had never saw something like this coming, and I think it's gonna be the same way with the Last Jedi. It is the same as so many other time travel movies and so many other sci-fi films. It owes such a considerable debt to Blade Runner. But that's besides the point, right? The point is that Thor Ragnarok is a sort of fun, vibrant, interesting-looking movie that is way more outside of like the kind of the Avengers stuff we've got so far and the Thor stuff we've got so far. So much more than The Last Jedi, which looks to be following a very traditional Star Wars pattern. But at the same time,
guys, that's time on the fight. So this is going to be final arguments, all right? So Luca, you're going to start first. Final arguments. Go ahead.
Okay, so Thor Ragnarok is... There is so much in this movie that looks fun, vibrant. I haven't even mentioned the cast. Kate Blanchett looks amazing. Jeff Goldblum looks great. You get to see what Hulk's been, which we've been building up for several movies now. It looks like this really cool culmination of a lot of these things that have been happening in the Marvel Universe in terms of progression to a more sort of vibrant, fun, comic booky style thing with a great director, one of probably the most entertaining and fun members of the Avengers, and key, there is almost, if not completely, no Kat Dennings in this movie, which is the best thing about it.
All right, and with that, Evan, go ahead and give your final arguments.
You keep hitting the same point, and this is where it's getting frustrating for me in this argument. You know, it's a culmination of things. It's progressive, and when you said progressive, you said it's fun and vibrant. That's not progressive in the MCU. Ant-Man was fun and vibrant. Freaking Doctor Strange was fun and vibrant. The Avengers was fun and vibrant. Guardians of the Galaxy was fun and vibrant. Thor, the first Thor, was fun and vibrant.
The first Thor was not fun and vibrant.
I disagree. When they went into Thor's world, sorry, it's losing my brain right now. It's I'm really tired. It was fun and vibrant. Each and every single one of these Marvel movies are fun and vibrant, and I think that's the issue. It's a rehash.
But it's not a rehash.
Luca.
Sorry, this is my time to shine. When you go down, just the cast alone, you know it's going to be something different. You have Tom Hardy, Gwendolyn Christie, Billy Lord, Daisy Ridley, Domhnall Gleeson, Adam Driver, Laura Dern, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Benicio del Toro, Oscar Isaac, Mark Hamill, and the list just goes on. Andy Serkis. You know they're trying to break the floor with this movie. The Last Jedi, they're trying to break grounds.
They're not
make something new, making something innovative. They have a director who they have put full trust in. They put so much trust in Rian Johnson. They wanted him to direct 9. They wanted him. He was the first choice. That is confirmed. And so, and with that being said, the amount of excitement in fans, look, there's a bunch of excitement around Ragnarok. But there's nothing like the feeling of being around 90,000 people stopping exactly what they're doing at that time and place to go watch 2 minutes of something that's coming out in a long time. There's nothing like that feeling. Exactly, because it's Star Wars. Argument made.
All right, and with that, good argument, guys. Just a quick couple fact checks. First off, Evan, when you're listing cast members, don't start with the actor. That's already been said. He's being a Stormtrooper cameo like Daniel Craig. Don't start with him.
Why not?
Second off, you guys obviously both talked about how these are both great filmmakers prior. How they've been both great filmmakers prior. Between the two of them as directors, the only one to have a negative reviewed film on Rotten Tomatoes is Taika Waititi. His first film, Eagle vs. Shark, has a 54%. However, since then, he has only had positive reviews, as had Rian Johnson. And also,
been nominated for an Oscar.
Just clarifying, maybe it was confirmed and I could not find it, but I could not find a confirmation from Johnson or Lucasfilm themselves saying that he was the first choice, although that is the main belief, is that they would go to him first. When he didn't take it, they go to J.J. Abrams next. Okay, so with that, good argument, guys. Good first round. And as hard as it was, just looking at the points that I was able to take down, Luca was able to get off more hits against Star Wars than Evan was against Thor, and that's why I do have to go with Luca, because the only hit that Evan got off against Thor was that it's repeating that same Marvel tone and formula, and I thought that Luca did a good enough job defending it that getting more hits off against Star Wars would get him the win. So Luca is going to take the first point on this round.
Should have brought up how the first two Thor movies are two of the worst MCU films.
That is the truth. That is my opinion. They suck. But
Thor 2 is, I think, the second worst. Iron Man 2 is the worst, and then you get Thor 2, and then there's like Avengers 2. I think it's just above that, and then Thor.
All right. So with that, guys, Luca is currently up 1-0, and we're going to go ahead and get into the second round here. And the question is, we have, in a world where we are so surrounded by superhero and comic book films, there are a lot of comic book movies that are out there that are based on comic books that people don't realize simply because they are just they're not superhero movies. So in honor of the upcoming release this weekend, American Assassin, which is based on a comic book, what is the best comic book adaptation of a non-superhero comic book? And Evan, you're going to go first on this argument. Go ahead and start with your opening statements.
Surprised that there's even a question to this. This movie broke records at the box office that nobody ever expected it to. This movie was just supposed to fly under everyone's radar and, you know, never to be heard about again. But now we're getting a sequel to it. It's Kingsman: The Secret Service. I don't even know how there's a question to this. As a great cast with Colin Firth and Taron Egerton, Samuel L. Jackson, and the list just keeps going on. The story is above all and none. It's great fun. It has its dramatic moments. It has its great comedic moments, and it's stylized, but the style doesn't take away from the movie. It's a near perfect film that all types of audiences would like to see. People who love romance, people who love, you know, action, people who love comedy, people who love anything that is almost groundbreaking, and that's what the movie was. It was near groundbreaking for it was something that people didn't expect, and usually that's a good thing, and it delivered on a surplus of levels. So the real answer is Kingsman: The Secret Service.
All right, and Luca, go ahead and give your opening arguments.
You're gonna have to fill me in on what box office records Kingsman broke. I'm going with the 2005 Daniel Cronenberg movie, History. I'm going for the 2005 Cronenberg movie, History of Violence, which is a story about Viggo Mortensen plays a character called Tom Stoll, and essentially some criminals go into his coffee shop and start a fight. He fights back, and then he's basically hounded by his past. And why this movie is so brilliant is because it is about this kind of idea of violence and how it's self-perpetuating. And I think why it stands up so well as a comic book movie in particular is that the vast majority of comic book movies we see are kind of based on violence and violence without consequence. And A History of Violence is a really interesting philosophical explanation of the cycle of violence and how it works. It has absolutely beautiful performances from Viggo Mortensen, Ed Harris, the child actor who plays his daughter, is phenomenal. It has a wonderful tone. It's got that sort of traditional kind of Cronenberg sort of plotting nature to it, but it is wonderfully profound, beautifully well written, one of the most incredible portrayals of a marriage I've ever seen. It is a near perfect movie. It is the best movie of 2005. It is in contention for Cronenberg's best film, which is an amazing thing. A History of Violence is just one of the best comic book movies of all time, superhero.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and start the argument. You guys are going to have 5 minutes on the clock once you start speaking. Go ahead, guys, fight it out.
Kingsman is not a near-perfect movie. There are several issues with it. For one, several of the characters are completely inconsequential. The Merlin character is interesting because of who's playing it, but besides that, he's not an interesting character. The girl who ends up being Lancelot is completely inconsequential. I'm not sure how you think that it delivers on a romantic level. I'm not quite sure how that works. Is that ridiculously out of place and unfunny anal sex joke? Is that where the romance came in? And on top of that, for an adaptation of a non-superhero comic book, it basically is a superhero. You've got people with kind of above human capabilities, with all of these sort of powers that are given by gadgets, fighting against an evil villain who wants to take over the world, with a henchman who has some kind of physical sort of superhuman capability, with all of the same kind of cinematic tricks and twists that are in Matthew Vaughn's X-Men movies. It is very similar to a superhero comic book movie. So if I'm going to make an argument for what is the best comic book adaptation based on a non-superhero comic, I'm going to go with something that actually feels like it's not a fucking superhero. So that's why History of Violence is the better adaptation of a non-superhero comic book, because it doesn't fucking feel like a superhero.
But it's not. It doesn't feel like a superhero. It's a spy movie. Are you telling me that James Bond feels like a superhero? No, it's.
But Kingsman doesn't feel like James Bond. It's got massively overblown action sequences, which are sort of very out of place in this sort of trying to be spy narrative. But think about Kingsman.
No, I have to completely disagree with that. It's part of the narrative. It's part of the style that Matthew Vaughn puts onto the film, and it makes it that much more fun and engaging.
But it's so similar to his X-Men movies. Like, okay,
that's fine. If it's similar, then that's fine, because his X-Men movies are brilliant. You know,
and they're superhero movies. If I'm going to argue for
just wait a second. The argument is, and whether it feels like a superhero movie or not, the argument is, what is the best comic movie that isn't based off a superhero comic? The answer was given that Kingsman is not a superhero comic, and that was accepted. And now,
I was going to say, I will step in and say that I'm not going to count what Luca was trying to say towards it, because even though you can argue it does feel like it, I did accept it as an answer because technically it is a spy comic. It is a parody of Bond.
No, don't worry, I get that. I'm not trying to discredit it on the basis that it's not a superhero movie. I'm trying to discredit it on the basis that as an adaptation of a non-superhero comic, it feels too similar to a superhero movie to be a
that's
right. But I think you're hurting your argument there, because you're comparing great movies with great movies. Like, you're saying, wow, these great X-Men films, First Class, and Days of Future Past. Sorry, no, that was directed by Bryan Singer. I told you guys it's early in the morning. But that great X-Men movies that were directed by Matthew Vaughn. Remember, great X-Men movies was directed by the Kingsman, and now you're comparing them. You're comparing great movies with great movies. You're hurting your own argument.
I'm comparing them in terms of tone. I think that Kingsman is a worse movie than First Class. Like I said, I think that the issues I have with the qualities of it that are negative, the sort of complete lack of impact in a female protagonist who ends up playing Lancelot, the really predictable bait and switch with Michael Caine, again, the weird anal sex joke, which is completely out of place, the really sort of off-kilter and not very impressive performance from Samuel L. Jackson, the fact that besides Eggy and arguably Harry, who even then doesn't really get enough time, none of the characters are at all consequential. Whereas with A History of Violence, you have a profound movie that has an incredible portrayal of a family, an incredible portrayal, and thinks about what it actually means to commit all of these violent acts that we see.
Portrayal, they overact, and it's
they absolutely do not overact.
I had to watch it. I had to sit through this movie to actually prepare this argument, and I sat through and I was like, oh my god, I was laughing. It's the Power Rangers effect for me almost. I was laughing at parts I shouldn't be laughing at, and I just like, they were trying to be super serious. I'm just like, really? This is what you're giving us? I shouldn't be laughing at those super serious parts, but I was, and I think it's a matter of fact of, you're trying to take the super serious material, and you're trying to turn it into a film, which is more in positively things. The issue is there's a bunch of cheap gags, and there
are no cheap gags in A History of Violence. Name me a cheap gag. Name me a cheap gag.
Again, I saw the movie the first time. It's
So you can't name a cheap gag then?
Okay. If I were to sit down, hold up, real quick, just to make things clear, if I were to sit down and watch Pulp Fiction for the first time, I don't think I could tell you a single cheap gag in it.
I like how you brought props. Nice.
I can, because I can.
You're making an argument that there are cheap gags in the movie, and you can't name a single cheap gag. I can name a cheap gag in Kingsman. It's the anal sex gag, which is unfunny.
It's part of the style.
But it's completely unfunny. It's
style that people love, which made it break box office records. That cheap gag
didn't break a single box office record.
Yes, it did in the year of September. Hold up. Actually, Aaron, could you please do that? Because I'm positive it did.
What is the question that we're fact checking?
Kingsman box office records.
Oh, I already had that up. I'll do
Okay.
that after the fight. So go ahead.
Thank you. But point being is with the Kingsman, you're getting mad at it for it's the Winter Soldier effect. You're being super nitpicky for a film that shouldn't be.
I'm not being nitpicky.
At all.
I'm not being.
You obviously are. You're like, this happened, and you're like, these
I'm
very
pointing out
small.
all the flaws. The characters have no impact is not a small flaw. The main protagonist of the film has no impact. It's not a small
impact.
flaw.
The world was about to be destroyed because of the villain, Samuel L. Jackson's villain. How is that impact?
There is a scene at the end of the movie where Aggie's mother is trying to break into the bathroom and kill her baby. And you do not care because those characters aren't shown for like an hour of the movie before it happens. This is not
It's because you're learning about Eggsy. That's the whole point. It's not the mother's.
But it's supposed to be this big impactful moment. Time? Okay.
Time. That's time on the fight. So Evan, you're gonna go ahead and start final statements.
Okay. Give me a second to collect.
All right, go ahead, Evan. That is fine.
I know. Okay. Here's the thing. I guess you're in a deep minority with this movie. There are a bunch of people who love it more than for what it is, but for the facts that it was able to break barriers that you don't see often. It was over the top on purpose. It had its specific style, but it didn't break from the actual narrative or the plot or the heartfelt characters. And it broke records because of it. Now, if you're trying to tell me that's not special or it's cheap gags over and over again, then we're seeing two completely different movies, and I think that might be hurting your argument a little bit. Issue with History of Violence is it's hard for it to separate itself from other movies, especially in that time or even right now. If that movie were to come out today, it might be nominated for an Oscar and it just might move along with its life. I think that's the issue with the film. It's not necessarily something special, something that we're going to remember forever. Maybe you might, but I don't think a mass audience is. With that being said, The Kingsman is something that we're going to remember forever because it actually called for a sequel. And it's coming out very soon because the first was original in the type of it wasn't something that the audience was expecting. Hence why Kingsman: The Secret Service is a much better film and actually comparable to the X-Men movies, which are fantastic. Thank you for letting me use your argument.
All right, and Luca, go ahead. Final statements.
You said that Kingsman broke down boundaries, but you didn't mention a boundary that it broke down. You said that A History of Violence had cheap gags, but you didn't mention a cheap gag in the movie. You've said that A History of Violence can be compared to other films, but you haven't mentioned a film that could be compared to. Kingsman is a fun movie, but it is not impactful or thought-provoking in the same way that A History of Violence is. You said that it was good for people who wanted romance. Why? There's nothing romantic about it. Whereas A History of Violence, by contrast, has one of the best portrayals of a marriage I've seen in films. You said that it was uniquely stylized and stylistic, which is not true. It takes a lot of style from Vaughn's films like Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. A History of Violence is an original movie that takes a really thought-provoking idea and really explores it, while at the same time being entertaining and using violence in a way that is both interesting, thought-provoking, and far more impactful than anything in Kingsman. It's got a smaller cast than Kingsman, but it uses them so much more effectively, that I wasn't left at the end of History of Violence thinking, oh, who was that one character who played Lancelot? She didn't really do much. It's an impactful movie in a way that Kingsman is fun, but it left my mind after I saw it. It didn't leave a lasting impact.
Okay, and with that, that'll be the fight. Just a quick couple fact checks. Because you guys were talking about Matthew Vaughn's involvement in the X-Men franchises. Just to clear up, Matthew Vaughn only ever directed one X-Men film, X-Men First Class, and then he wrote Days of Future Past. He was supposed to direct it. He was supposed to direct it, but backed out to do Kingsman instead, and then Bryan Singer came back.
Bryan Singer, yeah.
And then talking about the box office of Kingsman: The Secret Service, which came into question a lot over the fight of this match. Overall, I'm going to say it wasn't a record breaker. Worldwide, overall, it did $414 million at the worldwide box office. Its domestic opening weekend was $36 million. It came second, only being beat by 50 Shades of Grey that same weekend, which I think
in the UK as well.
Although I think we can all agree that Kingsman is far more romantic.
It's a better movie than 50 Shades of Grey. It has the better anal sex joke as well.
And the closest they would come to being a record breaker, according to Box Office Mojo, is in terms of President's Day, the holiday weekend of President's Day. It had the 8th highest opening weekend over President's Day, and then from all movies ever released on President's Day, it is number 10. It is the 10th highest grossing.
I know, but we can talk about it later, but I think it was the facts for how long it was in the top 5 at the time that it came out.
I have that.
Because it was in the top 5 for an extenuous amount of time, and that was one of the longest times in history for that time, for it being in a September movie, I think. The
movie was released in February.
Sorry.
The movie was in the top 5 for 6 weeks, and it was in the grand top 10 for 9 weeks.
Right.
So it had staying power for a while, and then once it started falling, it fell off very quickly. But yes, it was in the top. It was in the top 5 for 6 weeks. I don't have it here whether or not that's a record, but that is still a good run to stay up there.
There are definitely films that have been in the top 5 for more than 6 weeks. Force Awakens is one of them.
In February? No, I'm talking about in February though. Like that was.
I don't necessarily know that.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah, obviously that we can go into analytics and forever on that, but okay, so. Okay, this one is a bit tougher. You guys did a better job at jabbing back at the movies, especially Evan trying to get back at a history of violence. So here's the thing. Okay, so with Luca's defense of a history of violence, a lot of the points were very broad and was talking about more in specific scenes within the film. And I get what you were saying is in it shows one of the points you made was it shows a realistic portrayal of marriage. It uses violence in a way that's different from other films, but specifics would have helped the argument a bit more. But here's the thing. Luca didn't get necessarily a ton of good hits off against Kingsman, but the ones that he did, I felt like they could have been defended very easily. Obviously, he said that it feels like a superhero comic book, and I did feel that Evan fought that back. But the one that stands out to me, and the one that's going to give Luca the point on this one, is he said that the plot is very predictable. And I think a very easy comeback to that one would have been, it's a parody of a genre. The plot is something you're supposed to have seen before, because it is a parody. So it's that one hit back that's going to give Luca the point on this one. But again, it was a good fight from the both of you. All right. This is going to be an interesting fight, this next one.
This is the one I think of. I'm not good.
All right. So the third question is, what is the best adaptation of a classic novel? So the specifications I had for this question were, the novel must have been written before 1967, which means it must be at least 50 years old. However, the movie could have been adapted at any time. However, both of these guys actually chose classic.
50 years old or more.
You both chose classic movies as well as classic books. So this is a classics fight right here. Luca, you are going to be the first to go in this argument. So go ahead and give us your pick.
Interestingly, we both took movies that were released like really close to the book's release as well. I went with Psycho. Psycho, I believe it's a 1959 novel by Robert Bloch, turned into the timeless classic by Alfred Hitchcock. One of the best sort of suspense chiller movies of all time. Obviously, it starts out with that incredible scene with Janet Leigh, and the shower scene is one of the most iconic movie moments of all time. And then you have the moment at the end where the chair spins around, which is another one of the most iconic movie moments of all time. To take a book that is kind of like, I've read the book and it's kind of a weirdly sort of flaky, pulpy thriller, and turn it into a genuine cinematic classic, filmed unbelievably beautifully by one of the all-time masters. It's just phenomenal. So I'm going with Psycho.
All right, and with that, Evan, go ahead and give us your opening statements.
Oh man, this is I hate arguing against great films, but there's just a film that is, I think, above and beyond. You could argue this isn't one of the best films of all time to ever come out. One of the best probably the best courthouse drama to ever come out. Probably one of the best performances a actor is ever going to give. Probably one of the most still prevalent films in today's society, especially in America. To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, this movie was shown to my 9th grade English classroom. At first, they're like, oh my God, teacher, this is an old movie. By the end of it, their eyes were glued to the screen. Like, that's impossible to do in today's generation, to make people love and appreciate old cinema. And they're able to do it with To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, what does that say for a film being timeless? You know, a movie that focuses on racial issues that still happen or still prevalent today. I just drove through Alabama and Mississippi. The racial issues that are talks about in To Kill a Mockingbird, I don't think I've seen more prevalent in today's society, in today's, political space. I don't want to get too political, but whenever you talk about a film like this, it is very, based on, the political space that we're in. And yeah, you can take a film like Psycho and, arguably what it did for horror and what it did for suspense, but I feel like Psycho is just part of the whole Hitchcock thing, and it doesn't, you could argue it doesn't stick out like versus things like Review Window and Mirror. Sorry, I'm tired.
I'm taking a Review Mirror, don't worry.
I know, I'm tired, and
is that the parody?
Yeah, it is. Actually,
what's that one?
Funny story. I'll tell you. Funny story. I'll tell you guys later. But like that being said, sometimes I feel like Psycho is just one of his other films in his filmography, whereas To Kill a Mockingbird sticks out not only for its year, but forever and for what it means all time.
Okay, and with that, you guys are going to go ahead and argue it out. 5 minutes on the clock when you start speaking. Go ahead.
Do you want to take the floor on this one, Evan?
I'd rather you.
Okay. So I think To Kill a Mockingbird is an incredible film. It's a beautiful portrayal of a childhood in the town and stuff like that. But I have some issues with it as an adaptation, namely that it doesn't adapt much. It has a very similar pace to the book. It takes excerpts from the book, and it kind of weaves the book so intricately into the film itself that it almost feels like it's just straight up copy and paste the book, which is fine in some ways. It's a great book, but it leaves the movie with that kind of sort of meandering, slow, plodding pace that is fine for a book because it takes a long time to read, but I think in a sort of 2-hour movie kind of leaves things dragging. Psycho.
That's the point. Hold on. That's the point of it, though. Because racism is still alive. To end racism is going to be a long, drawn-out process. To get this one case solved in To Kill a Mockingbird was going to be a long, drawn-out process, and the audience needs to be able to feel that. They need to feel it being long and drawn out, because that's the reality. That's what it really is.
But the court case is only a sort of, it's not all of To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is about a lot more than that.
Of course.
And yes, I think the racism plays a huge factor in it, but I don't think that excused the tone from being as drawn out. It's the sort of the tone and the pace from being as drawn out as it is. Psycho, by contrast, takes a book that is it's nowhere near as good a book as the book To Kill a Mockingbird, and it turns it into an incredibly dynamic, incredibly suspenseful, incredibly well shot movie. And that's the thing. It's better shot than To Kill a Mockingbird. It's better paced than To Kill a Mockingbird. The sound is better than To Kill a Mockingbird. You say that To Kill a Mockingbird has one of the greatest sort of hero portrayals of all time. I think that's true. But Psycho, by contrast, has one of the greatest villain portrayals of all time with Tony Perkins as Norman Bates. He is unbelievably brilliant in that movie. It is one of the best kind of portrayals of a character. And I think it causes Norman Bates to leap off the screen and leap out of the book more than Atticus does in To Kill a Mockingbird, because he feels like a character in a book because of the way the film is paced, because it directly takes excerpts from the book and uses it in its narration. I think it suffers because it's not as cinematic. is kind of fine. It's not a huge blow, but it is a real issue with the film. It's not a very cinematic movie.
It's not cinematic. Perhaps I can't see where you're coming from, because the whole point of the film is this one small issue, and they purposely make the movie feel small as something grander, as something bigger, and that's what the film does beautifully. It turns the heel on what people believe racism to be, and it brings it into a bigger light, into a bigger issue. It's the racism that we don't see. It's the facts that no matter what the jury thought, it was a case that was to be lost from the very beginning. And that's the whole point. Like, take it from a film itself, like separate it from the book. And that's what I usually like to do whenever I look at movies based off of adaptations, like Hunger Games, you know, any type of comic book adaptation. Even I separate the comic from the actual movie. The movie itself, when you look at it, it's supposed to be slow. It's supposed to make you feel every single second, every single moment of what it was like to live in that time era, because nowadays it feels the same way whenever you're trying to progress and make things different in this world. It's still that slow, meddling type of pace. That's the whole purpose of the movie. And that's what we need to do as audience members, is realize and awaken to that whole new light. Like, wow, this is genius, because they have purposely put us in this place that we need to realize that this is going to be a long, slow battle, but we have to win every single small little problem that there is. Whereas in Psycho, I think it was very impactful, but I wouldn't recommend people seeing this movie. I wouldn't recommend people going back to it. Like, I would maybe recommend film students, but not an everyday film fan. You know, if I want to change somebody's perspective on something, I would recommend them to Kill a Mockingbird, because that's actually going to change your perspective on Red Psycho.
You're talking about To Kill a Mockingbird largely as a portrayal of racism, and that's understandable. But I want to talk about that for a little bit myself, because To Kill a Mockingbird's portrayal of racism itself is, you know, for lack of a better term, very black and white. It doesn't sort of allow for those kind of just.
That's kind of what it is right now. Like,
well, no, what I'm saying is that it doesn't allow for the complexities and shades of gray that are present in sort of other stories about racism, like 12 Angry Men has some racial aspects, and it's more subtle and more nuanced with it. But To Kill a Mockingbird is very on the nose with it, and it can kind of let its thematics and its sort of philosophical undertones get in the way of it as a movie, get in the way of it as a proper portrayal of life in this place, a proper portrayal of racism, a proper portrayal of courts, because everyone who's racist in this town, even if they're racist in a small way, is made out to be an extreme racist. You don't see the kind of casual racists. They're in lynch mobs, and they're trying to kill kids.
I think that's necessarily. You have to make this, like, in order to make a classic, you have to make it accessible to all audiences. You know, people who don't understand deeper thinking, people who do understand deeper thinking, and that's what it did. It made it available to everyone. Because if you're trying to have those black and, you know, if you try and have those gray areas, then people actually might not understand the full point of the movie. But what they did is they made it so stereotypical, like how people would like to stereotype African Americans. That's why it's timeless, is because anybody can still watch it. You know, you can sit down a 12-year-old and they would understand at the end of the day what racism means, and even what the side effect of racism is. If you were to sit someone down and show them 12 Angry Men, I don't think a 12-year-old would necessarily understand the point of the film. Whereas in Psycho, I don't think you could sit down and you know, show wide audiences. I don't think all of them would actually understand the impacts that had on film, but people would understand the impacts that To Kill a Mockingbird would have had.
Okay, time. That's time on the fight. So Luca, you're going to go first. Final arguments.
I think To Kill a Mockingbird is a really to-the-word adaptation. Because of that, it loses some of its pace and some of its impact. I think it's a little bit too black and white. I think that it's, you know, there are other classic films like Citizen Kane and 12 Angry Men that are more complex, but equally as accessible. So I think it loses some of the complexity, and I think it's kind of slow, meandering, and plodding in a way that takes away from its full impact as a film. Psycho takes a book that is not great and makes it into a film that is incredible. It is so cinematic, so dynamic, so exploratory in this Norman Bates character, and so exploratory in the psychology, and so profound. And it's got just some of the most incredible scenes in cinema in there. The shower curtain scene, the scene with Norma Bates, and all of the stuff at the beginning with sort of how that's paced and how fatalistic it feels, it is a far more cinematic or well-made movie than To Kill a Mockingbird, because it knows how to adapt. It knows how to take the ideas of the original book and make them into a film all its own. To Kill a Mockingbird relies too much on the original book and is not enough of a sort of really incredible piece of filmmaking in its own right, like Psycho is.
All right, and Evan, go ahead. Final arguments.
If I were to sit a casual film fan down, and I would want them to see something new or get a better grasp of a new concept and want them to fully understand it, I wouldn't show them Psycho. Psycho is something that a film student would have to study and actually get the full meaning of what it is. And that's the issue that Psycho has, is it's a movie that people can be bored by if they don't appreciate old classic cinema, which is the issue with a bunch of classic cinema in this newer age, is that sadly, it's sad. I don't like it, but it's the truth. Some people just find it boring, and I feel like Psycho you can put into that realm and space of film. Where To Kill a Mockingbird it's a 2-hour, it's a purposely slowly paced movie because racism is still alive and it's going to be a slow, long battle where anyone can sit down and understand it. It has one of the best performances that we'll ever see in the history of cinema in Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch. Robert Duvall got his career started there as Boo Radley, so you could argue without this film we don't get Robert Duvall in the place and time where we have Robert Duvall. It's the matter of fact that it's accessible to all audiences, and the way how it told the story and made things easier and simpler for a wide audience to understand, which makes or breaks a film. If a whole audience can understand it, then that's what makes history. That's what makes a film special. Thank you. Woo! Fire.
All right, and that is going to be the fight. Not much to fact check there. The only thing is just the dates and stuff that was said at the beginning of the match. So Psycho was released in 1960. The book, written by Robert Bloch, was released in 1959. So Luca, you were correct on that. For To Kill a Mockingbird,
To Kill a Mockingbird was
To Kill a Mockingbird.
1962. I know that.
Ooh,
Yes.
fire.
Yeah. The film was released in 1962. The book by Harper Lee was released in 1960.
So it was my first choice.
Oh, inside jokes.
I wasn't gonna say that. Okay, I was trying to be fair.
Yeah, we were trying to leave that.
No, I don't give a shit.
Actually, let this, because this does play into my decision for everyone to know. It was we had an issue where they chose the same answer. Both chose To Kill a Mockingbird. Luca was the one that chose to leave on that one and pick another option. And I will say this. Luca did a really good job of attacking something excuse me, that would have been his first choice. He did do a good job of attacking it. And however, even though there weren't as many attacks against Psycho as there were against To Kill a Mockingbird, I think Evan did a really great job defending every attack that Luca put on him for To Kill a Mockingbird. So because of that defense, even though he didn't attack Psycho as much as I would want him to, he defended his movie well enough that I'm going to have to give him the point for that one.
Oh, thank God. I was so scared I wasn't going to get this point. Oh, my God. I was so scared I wasn't going to get this point. Oh, my God.
No, I thought I pretty much thought that was a given. I like Psycho more, but in terms of adaptation of the classic novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, it illustrates the points of this book so well.
All right. That was a great...
Also, that like, to be fair, this question, what it does is, like, I don't, as a film viewer, I don't, like, I'm not a big, like, oh, it didn't stick true to the adaptation. Like, I'm like, is the film good? And that's where I start, is, what does the film mean? So, yeah.
And for people who, because Evan was talking about a point at the end that I do think is valid, I do think a lot of people nowadays shy away from older cinema specifically because it's just different from how they make films nowadays. But if anybody watches this and you guys haven't seen Psycho or To Kill a Mockingbird, go watch them because they're both great movies. I don't think anybody will dispute that.
Psycho is basically where the slasher comes from. Psycho's a very long film movie. To Kill a Mockingbird is great.
It's influential. Psycho is influential to a whole genre. All right, guys. So, damn it. The score currently is 2-1 with Luca in the lead, but these guys have one more round to fight it out before we go to the speed round. And this question is a question. This is the second of two questions that we're asking in both of our first returning player matches. And again, it's part of the comic book genre being such a big part of our culture. But the thing is, sometimes, they don't always turn out great. And sometimes we want to make changes, and we all have our personal preferences, and we just have some things that don't turn out the way that we expect them to. And so with that, the question is, what current comic book character to be recast? And that is a part of the argument, is why do they need to be recast? What is wrong with the character that needs a recast on them? And Evan, you are going to go first on this one, and I am entirely interested to see this argument. Evan, who is your pick for character that needs to be recast?
Okay. I need to gather my thoughts because it has become apparent that my choice has confused the judge here. And I just want to prep him with this. Was the performance good? It is
I don't remember.
It was exactly. It was forgettable. It was forgettable, especially with the amount of screen time that character had. Scott Eastwood, that man who no one really cares about, needs to be replaced as the character Lieutenant GQ Edwards.
Okay, I was going to say before we started the argument,
were going to say the character's name.
I was going to challenge you because I looked it up. I was like, do you know the character's name?
I do, and I had to say it, and
I'll stop interrupting you.
I had to make it clear that I knew it. Needs to be replaced for one of a few reasons. For a new actor who's still trying to prove himself, you practically give him one of the leads. The man just acted like he was this big, tough brute guy who was super cool. It's like, oh, you got to come. And didn't convince any of us that he can control a bunch of lunatics. He was forgettable. No one actually knew that Scott Eastwood was in the movie until I said it, sadly. And he had no chemistry with the others. Like, it was so dull and boring. And it's nothing memorable at all. And in these comic book movies, you need to stand out. Not only for the film itself, especially with Suicide Squad, which has even more freaking colors than Thor Ragnarok, but also for your own acting career. You need to be able to stand out so you can prove to others that you're actually a decent actor. And he was one of the most forgettable things I will ever see in my life. So Scott Eastwood can go flush down the toilet and swirl all around like, woo, because he was garbage.
Okay. And Luca, what is your pick?
Scott Eastwood was perfectly fine. He's been in like a ton of movies before, actually. So I'm going with a character who is actually a character, for one. I'm going with specifically the Suicide Squad and DCEU Batman continuity of the Joker, played unbearably by Jared Leto. I remember when Suicide Squad was coming out and people were saying that this was a good performance. The rest of the film was bad, but Jared Leto was great. And I just do not understand what this is here. The entire point of the Joker in the comic books and the film so far is that he is an agent of chaos who is not kind of bound to any morality or plan. And he's almost like a natural disaster. In Suicide Squad, we got like a pimp or something. He's like a nightclub owner or a patron at a nightclub, and he's got this kind of leering, weird Marilyn Manson thing going on. It's a really, the weirdest part about it and the worst part about it is that it is a bizarre performance that does complete discredit to the Joker, and yet somehow at the same time is one of the most predictable castings I've ever seen and one of the most predictable performances I've ever seen in one of these movies. It is at the same time, it somehow manages to do absolutely everything wrong and everything that is baffling, and at the same time be completely unsurprising or uninteresting in it. It is a fucking dreadful performance, and he needs to be out. Scott Eastwood is an actor who played a bit part in a film and was fine and then.
All right.
That's good. That's fine.
So, fuck it. We're bashing Suicide Squad, guys. 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mark.
You gotta be kidding me! The one good part about Suicide Squad was Harley Quinn's and it was Harley Quinn and Joker's relationship.
It definitely wasn't.
Yeah, yes, it was, because that's what people were buzzing about. That was the only thing that people were fucking buzzing about in that movie. And here's the thing: it wouldn't have worked if Margot Robbie and Jared Leto didn't have good chemistry. It wouldn't have worked if Jared Leto wasn't a good Joker. Like, and here's the thing: it's different, and people can't.
It didn't work.
I think it works brilliantly. He came in every time he was on. He had a gravitas, and he brought in.
He was leering in the corner. He didn't do anything.
He was such a big part of the screen, and that was
he
the
was
issue that people
barely
had.
in the movie, and he still was fucking dreadful.
And that's a script issue. And then the thing, when he was barely in the movie, people wanted more of him. People were like, "I could have used so much more Joker in this movie. He was so good in it." So many people were buzzing.
He was just this weird, leering, non-impactful performance. He didn't have any of the same chaos or joy that the Joker
how is he non-impactful? He made Harley Quinn. The character was impactful. He made Harley Quinn, and Jared Leto sold us all to it.
So hold on a second. So this is a thing that really bugs me with the Suicide Squad movie and the way people react to it. People go, "Oh, the Joker made Harley Quinn who she is." No, Margot Robbie made Harley Quinn who she is with a brilliant fucking performance. The Joker has no significant impact on the tone, pace of the movie. He brings everything down. He's another complicating factor that makes the movie even more loud and nonsense.
Every time he's on,
he is a non-impactful. He is a non-impactful performance for a character that is supposed to be impactful. Scott Eastwood is a fine performance for a character that is not supposed to be that significant. The character is
supposed to be impactful. Scott Eastwood put in these little nuances that don't even work. They're just awkward and offset. Like, he's supposed to compete with actors like Will Smith, Jai Courtney, who actually gave him.
But he's not. He's like
the way how he's written and the way how he decides to try and portray does these little nuances and they completely throw it off. If you put in someone like Tom Hardy, who's able to actually compete with the actors
would still have had a boring nothing character.
No, you'd have a character you can compete with everyone else, actually hold their ground. And the issue is they couldn't hold their ground, and
he's barely in the script. It doesn't matter.
He is in the script. He is one of the main characters.
He's not.
He has more screen time than half the Suicide Squad.
Not Amanda Waller. He's not Rick Flag. He's none of these characters. He's not an impactful character. Doesn't matter who the fuck you cast. The character is completely not impactful. Whereas the Joker, you have a character who is basically played out. You have a chance to do something new and interesting with.
New and interesting. He made him a pimp. That's new and interesting.
It's bullshit. It's not the Joker.
You can change characters. That's my issue with today's film culture. Is you can change something. You can change it from totally than what it is and still give it a new name. It's part of the marketing beast of Hollywood. And whether you like it or not,
you can change it. But if you change a character, you can change it. Fine. But if you change a character who has a specific fan expectation into something completely different from that is also a bad performance, that makes the movie worse.
Well, what else were they supposed to do? Like, that is my issue. Like, what else were they actually supposed to do? You know, because you're going up against Jack Nicholson's Joker. You're going up against Heath Ledger's Joker, arguably one of the best comic book movie performances of all time.
So
and
they basically
you have to make it different. You have to make it different. And
but they didn't. My point is, they didn't make it different in a performance sense. It is the same.
Think they did.
It is the same kind of
look on his face that every time he walked into a room,
he had the look on. The look on his face is directly drawn from Heath Ledger. The look on his face directly comes from Heath Ledger. Whereas everything else is very heavily inspired by the nuances of Ledger and Nicholson. The point is, you could have done something that was actually interesting, an actual interesting exploration of the Joker character, like what might be happening with Martin Scorsese. Which is
look here's the thing.
If
you're gonna argue that it like something that was actually interesting, then why was it when people were coming out of Suicide Squad, they weren't buzzing about the actual Suicide Squad itself. They were buzzing about the Harley Quinn and Joker stuff. No, I
think people were buzzing about Viola Davis as Amanda Waller and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I don't think Jared Leto was a home run.
They're buzzing about
flashed against that character fundamentally because he's boring. He's fucking boring. Whereas
exactly, Scott Eastwood was boring. Thank you very much. And here's the issue with Scott Eastwood. I have to wrap this argument over here real quick. Here's the issue with Scott Eastwood. He's just this guy who has to compete with the likes of Will Smith, Margot Robbie, And
but he doesn't have to compete with them. He's not put in a position of the script as being a member of this. You're acting as if he's put on this pedestal as a genuine main character in the movie, and he's not. He's not a member of this. He's not Rick Flag. He's not Amanda Waller. He's like the henchman. It's like wanting a different guy to play Bob in Batman 1989. There's no difference that's made. And
Okay, time.
Then you make it a more. Ooh.
All right, so let's get to the end of the arguments. You guys got one more shot at this. Evan, you're gonna fight.
Oh man, this is so
closing first.
By the way, I would like to say, good work. No hurt feelings at all. These are just movies, everyone. I just like to get very, very engaged. Here's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. Go ahead.
Jared Leto. That man put something different onto the table for all of us. He made something new and something involving that no one expected. And that's the issue.
Everyone expected.
No one expected freaking Jared Leto to be a pimp. He made the Joker a pimp. And it was fun and engaging. And people would have not been buzzing about Margot Robbie and that Harley Quinn character as much as they were if their chemistry didn't work. And it did. Hence why the performance is more than passable. Hey, this is my time to shine. This is my time to shine. And when he comes in at the end, spoiler alert to save her, you know that kinship has been revived and that the second Suicide Squad is coming because of something like that. And you put in Scott Eastwood, this guy named Scott, who thinks he's so cool and can come in here and compete with the likes of Will Smith, Viola Davis, not Jared Leto, sorry, Margot Robbie, Jai Courtney, and think he can act, Jay Hernandez, and think he can actually do a decent job, in which he completely falls flat. He is forgettable like everyone else said he was, then it just falls flat. But if you come in and you replace an Aussie boy, Tom Hardy, and have the same nuances that Scott Eastwood did, then it's going to be a much better, much more complex character, and it's something that's actually going to be memorable, and a role that was actually written to be fairly decent. So, that being said, I win. I don't know if I win or not, but that was fun.
Did you say Tom Hardy was Australian? I think he's English. He's Welsh. Right?
Yeah, I was going to fact check that. I'll fact check that.
Welsh.
Go ahead.
Scott Eastwood is like a good actor who is in a role that is bad, right? He's an actor. He's been in Fury and in Invictus and, and Snowden, and he's a good actor. But he's given a role that's bad. And I don't think if you cast anyone else, that role would become better. Jared Leto is giving a weird, bad performance in a role that is pretty well written. So if you take someone who is better, and I would argue there are several people, Caleb Landry Jones is an option. Allison Williams, they're both from Get Out. They both have that sort of real ability in that movie to balance the kind of dementedness with the kind of the joyfulness and jokiness of it. But I think you get a much more interesting character than just some like pimp who seemed like he was on heroin, which is not what the Joker is at all. It is a bad performance in a role that should be good. Not a decent performance in a role that would be bad no matter who was playing it.
All right, and with that, that's going to be the fight. Just the quick fact checks here. To fact check that Tom Hardy bit at the end. Tom Hardy was born in Hammersmith, London, England, so he is English.
Mate? I apologize.
Okay.
I have officially. I'm a bad person. I'll just shut up now.
Okay. And then if you guys will indulge me for a moment, I have the Suicide Squad cast list in front of me. I want to read it until we hit Scott Eastwood.
I think he's at the bottom, right?
Well, let's take a second here, though. No, let's take a second to be fair, because on IMDb, the cast list is in too many different places, and when you look at it, it's actually all over the place. So
he's at the bottom of the Wikipedia cast list.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did check IMDb first, and that's all over the place, so I have the Wikipedia one, but here, I'll read it to you. So the cast list goes Will Smith, Jared Leto, Margot Robbie, Joel Kinnaman, Viola Davis, Jai Courtney, Jay Hernandez, Adewale Agbaje.
Agbaje.
Okay, I wasn't going to pronounce the middle name. I don't know how to say that one. But Cara Delevingne, Karen Fukuhara, Adam Beach, Ike Barinholtz, and then Scott Eastwood. And then Ben Affleck.
Additionally, Ben Affleck, Ezra Miller.
Yeah, and then after that.
I might put Ben
I can go
Affleck
on and on. They got the whole They got the whole paragraph there, people. But, okay, so here's the issue. Evan, from the start, you had a very hard argument because, as we can see, the character is not an important character. Or at least it's not listed like he is an important character. I do like the creativity of the argument of, well, in the role that he is positioned in within the movie, with a better, stronger actor with more of a presence, he could become this commanding character that does become a part of the team and does have an impact on the film. However, I do think Luca takes it with the simple fact that he made the point in the argument of the issue did not lie within the actor, the issue lies within the script and the way the script was written. And what the problem is, changing an actor won't change the way the script is written. So with that, I am going to have to give Luca the point. But it was a valiant argument. It was a valiant argument. All right, so we are going to the speed round now. It is 1-3, and this will be very interesting because if you go back to these guys' first matches, because Evan got a knockout in his first match, he did not have to play the speed round, so this is his first time playing it. Luca, on the other hand, technically lost his speed round to Clark 2-1, so this will be very interesting to see how these two guys perform in the speed round. All right, so for the first question, I'm going to name two movies that have some sort of connection to each other. You guys are going, whichever one says the movie first, you're going to argue why that movie's the better one.
The better movie? Okay.
Here we go. So, actually, I didn't even realize this when I wrote the question originally, but this relates back to one of our options earlier because we have Kingsman 2 coming out soon. Which of these two is the better Mark Millar adaptation? Captain America Civil War or Logan?
Civil War.
Civil War.
Got it.
Evan got Civil War first, so Luke is going to have Logan.
Evan, you got to first into one.
Yeah.
Before people question me, Captain America: Civil War was based off of Civil War, written by Mark Millar. Logan was inspired by Old Man Logan, written by Mark Millar. Before people attack me,
loosely.
You know what? It's as inspired. Logan was as inspired by Old Man Logan as it was inspired by Unbreakable. That's the Clint Eastwood one, right? Yeah. So
still upset that I didn't get my Glenn Hawkeye.
Damn Eastwoods. Okay, I'm ready to go once you are.
All right. So it's going to be 20 seconds on the clock once I start, and then it's going to be 10 seconds for the rebuttal. Evan, your time does not start till you begin speaking, so you can get your thoughts in order.
Captain America: Civil War was this movie that was something that people didn't expect. People didn't expect the end of the movie because everybody's thinking oh, it's Marvel, they're gonna sing Kumbaya at the end. Well, they're not. They're still split apart. There's still loose ends. That all the performances were great. It was a complete good. It stapled why the Captain America trilogy is one of the best of all time. Whereas Logan was just it's there, but it's probably gonna be forgettable because people are like, it's me Oscars, but no, it's not.
Can I get 23 seconds?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll do 22.
Okay. Start when they start speaking,
so
right?
22 seconds. Yep.
Civil War is probably not even the best of the Captain America trilogy, whereas Logan is a superhero movie that comes around about as often as The Dark Knight. It is a re-examination and reappraisal of the superhero movie. It examines what it means to be a superhero movie. It has some of the best scenes of 2017 so far. The scene where they're watching Shane, the scene at the end with the battle scene. It is a wonderful, emotionally potent movie that examines what it means to be a superhero when the world is falling apart. Captain America: Civil War, not even best. Sorry.
All right. Evan's gonna be 10 seconds on the clock when you begin speaking.
Logan is the best of the trilogy because Logan is because the Wolverine trilogy is one of the worst trilogies of all time, and Logan is just one of those mediocre films that people are going to forget because it's so small and it's not as grand. It doesn't mean as much to the superhero genre as Civil War does. Woo!
All right, Luca, 10 seconds on the clock when you begin speaking.
Civil War is a fun movie. Logan is a potent, exploratory, profound movie in a way that we haven't seen in the superhero genre since The Dark Knight. It is just a better movie.
All right. Good argument on both ends. I'm going to give it to Evan simply just because he was able to get more viable points out in that time. But it was close. Although I don't agree with the forgettable thing at the end, but it is a point. So I can't take opinion into this. All right. So this is a question that I thought would be fun. Let's see how this goes. This is actually a question that is asked in the spoiler alert. This is a question that is going to be asked in the Clark Sugrath match. So I decided let's ask it as a speed round question here.
Like a main body question?
Yeah, this is going to have something that's going to have a real argument in their match. So I decided why not have it play out here as a speed round and see how it goes. So the question is, what has been the best movie of the quote-unquote Keaton song? So it's the best movie with Michael Keaton from 2009 to 2017.
Birdman.
Oh.
Luca got Birdman first that time.
Oh, Scheiße. Oh, God. Sorry, this is a lot of pressure now. God.
I need to find one.
My first answer was not Birdman at all. Let's make that clear. My first answer was not Birdman at all. I never said that. I
won't hold it against you. It's fine.
And I'm just letting the audience know that. I just want to make sure they didn't hear anything stupid.
And this is why this doesn't work as a speed round question, but we're doing it anyways.
Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Spotlight.
Okay, awesome. And if I remember correctly, okay, so we do have some different, a different answer than the actual match itself. So this will be fun. All right, so Luca, you're gonna have Birdman. 20 seconds on the clock when you start speaking.
Birdman is not just an incredible reflection of Michael Keaton's career, it is also Alejandro Iñárritu's best movie. The cinematography by Emmanuel Lubezki is incredible. It really sort of looks into what it means to be an absolute celebrity. Zach Galifianakis, Edward Norton are fantastic, Emma Stone and Naomi Watts are brilliant in it, and it is Michael Keaton's best performance of his career, let alone the Keaton Sons. It is a fantastic film.
All right, with time to spare, Evan, 20 seconds on the clock when you begin speaking.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the best movie that he was in, right? Not his best performance.
Yeah, it's just best movie of the best movie.
Okay, I just want to make things clear. All right, and I will start talking now. Spotlight told a much more impactful story where it was about, you know, the Boston Globe reporting on the Catholic Church and what they did to small children, and it told a better story, and it told it more compact way, and there was much more tension to it, whereas Birdman likes to meander along, and it tried to be experimental, but in my opinion it fell face flat compared to a bunch of the other better films in 2014 like Whiplash. Woo!
Time. All right,
I would like to petition for some extra time on my rebuttal.
Oh,
I was gonna say I'll give him 12 seconds. That says 12 hours, not 12 seconds.
He took his time on the okay.
It's okay. All right. 12 seconds on the clock, Luca. Go ahead, let me start speaking.
I don't think Spotlight tells a better story. I think it hangs too much on the real life story to be a great film on its own regard. Birdman is a fantastic film in its own regard. Iñárritu's directing is fantastic. The entire supporting cast is brilliant. Lubezki's cinematography is great. The directing of Spotlight is plodding and not too great. Tom McCarthy's not a great director.
Time. All right. He went a little over, so I'll give Evan 11 seconds. Hey man, that second counts.
Second, definitely.
All right. When you start speaking.
Birdman is one of the most overrated movies of the century because it's pretentious and it tries to be experimental, but then you have Boyhood that came out that year as well, and it was much more better. While Spotlight, it told an meaning and impactful story that everybody needs to hear, because if that film isn't made, then we don't know the story, and then we become less of people.
All right. That was a really good round from both of you. Luca, I like your argument for Birdman. I do, because you hit a lot of the points that, okay, to put my cards on the table a little bit, Birdman was my favorite film of that year. I completely agree that it should have won Best Picture.
Damn it.
Here's the thing, though. Okay? Luca put a lot of great points out in that first argument. And then a lot of your second argument was just repeating those same points. So you didn't get any more out there. Whereas Evan did hit on some different things. There was a little bit of repeating at the end, but he did hit on different things during his second argument, and he talked about the impactfulness of the story and of the real life drama that surrounded this event. So I'm going to give the point to Evan on this one.
Okay.
I can tell he's not happy with that one.
I think that's not calling it.
Is it tied?
Sorry?
It is tied.
Next point wins?
Next point
Yes,
wins.
it's currently tied.
Oh my god. Oh. Ah. Sorry, this is really high tense.
All right, and with this again, we're going to do the same thing we did. Well, I guess technically it's been a similar question all 3 times, but I have 2 films, and I'm going to say them, and you're going to tell me, well, there is a specific question that comes with this one that you're going to argue the angle on, okay?
Okay.
Who should have actually won Best Picture last year, La La Land or Moonlight?
La La Land.
Moonlight.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, everyone. This is...
It's actually perfect. All right, so we have 2 differing opinions here, which means there are going to be some genuine arguments out of this one. Evan, you did say La La Land first, and because this is the final fight, I'm going to extend the time a little bit. It's going to go to 30-20 this time.
God.
So a little bit more time.
Sorry. I would like to apologize to everyone for my behavior. This is just very high tense. I need to get into the championship. I don't know if it's this match or the next match that gets me into it, but I need this bad. And I have the film to argue it. It's hard to argue against racism and homophobia. So we'll see how this goes.
Luca's got the hard-hitting racism and homophobia. Evan's got white people singing and dancing. Let's see how this goes. No, I'm kidding. I actually like both these movies, so I have no bias here.
All right, here we go.
Go ahead, Evan, when you start.
If 14 Oscars doesn't tell you, 14 Oscar nominations doesn't tell you something, I don't know what it is. The Academy is full of people who know what they're doing, exactly what they're doing. La La Land was an innovative film that relies on nostalgia, but it's still new, and it brought people back to old age cinema that people don't appreciate often enough. And everybody agrees with me, old age cinema isn't appreciated enough, and that's exactly what La La Land did. It brought it back. It had fantastic performances with Emma Watson and Ryan Gosling, which were Oscar nominated. The script of it was fantastic. The music was amazing. I was dancing, seeing it out of the theater, which is a true fact. So La La Land, Best Picture, get on it.
Time. That was perfect. That was actually the first time you haven't gone over. I guess 10 extra seconds is all you ever needed. Oh. All right, Luca, 30 seconds on the clock when you start speaking.
I like how one of your arguments was about you should trust what the Academy is all about because they gave Moonlight the Best Picture. Best Picture should be about what the highest achievement is for filmmaking in the year, and Moonlight is the highest achievement of filmmaking in that year. It is the best style-wise, it is the best acting-wise, it is the best message-wise. La La Land is a very style over substance movie, which is fine, but in terms of Best Picture as a holistic thing which combines style and substance, Moonlight is by far the better performance. The way it explores racism and homophobia is fantastic. It is a more deserving picture overall than La La Land, which looks and sounds great, but is not as meaty a movie.
All right, 20 seconds on the clock, Evan, when you start speaking.
You said a whole film. The issue with Moonlight is it's breaking up into 3 parts, and it just makes everything confusing. And it doesn't actually tell a whole story. It just goes this part, this part, this part, and then we want more of every single part. It doesn't give it to us because the pace is all over the place. And the Oscar-nominated performances that we get are actually all the way explained or involved, and that's what makes Moonlight weak. Is the whole story isn't completely explained.
Time. All right,
Evan, you're
Luca,
muted, by the way.
20 seconds.
Did you hear my full statement?
No, you can repeat it.
My point being is that's why Moonlight wasn't a whole and complete story.
Okay. All right. Luca, 20 seconds when you begin speaking.
Moonlight was a whole and completely explored story. The thing that elevates it over the story of La La Land is that there isn't much in La La Land to explore. Not only is Moonlight a complete story, even though it is across these 3 parts, it does tell a flowing narrative, and there is more in the narrative to unpack and explore than La La Land. It's a better exploration, it has better performances, better cinematography. La La Land is style over substance, Moonlight is style and substance, perfectly married in an incredible film.
I would like to know, either result, I will be walking out of the store. So don't take anything offensively, okay? Any result that comes out of this match, I will be walking out of the store. So
all right. That was a really good fight. Clearly both of you are passionate about the films you chose, so that helps. or at least you can pull some passion out of your ass if you're not.
Moonlight is my favorite movie of last year.
La La Land was my favorite movie. Let me re-say that. It's the best movie of last year.
I think Moonlight is the best movie of last year.
That is clearing your arguments. It's close. It really is close. I'm replaying your arguments in my head. Luca, you did do a little of the repeating at the end, which does hurt you, but not enough that I'd count you out right away. But
yeah, it does hurt, though. I can tell you that. It hurts. This is tough.
Evan, I'm like trying to compose how I want to say what I want to say.
I'm so scared.
I think Evan gave a good argument as to why La La Land was a weaker picture, but Luca did give a good rebuttal towards it and fought back against it, and that's why I'm going to have to give Luca the point, and then henceforth the winner of this match.
I don't know.
Oh, that was so stressful.
I am going. Myself in this league are going to kill you by the time you're both 30.
I'm probably gonna kill this league before anything else happens. So,
all right.
Oh my god, that was so stressful. To be honest, that last question was more about me feeling like I owed it to Moonlight.
All right, so that was a really good fight, you guys. We're gonna go ahead, just for like the end of the video. We're gonna go ahead and start with Evan first. So obviously, I haven't worked everything out statistically yet, but here's the thing: you are 1-1 now, but you still have your knockout from the first match, and you did win the speed round in this match, which gives you a slight boost with the point system. So it's not going to hurt you a whole ton in the rankings that you lost this match, but you did lose. So what are your thoughts on the match as an overall?
I think there are 2 points that I should have won. You know, that's something that we can work out later. I'll be honest, there were 2 arguments that I thought I was going to lose for sure, which was the Psycho one and the history of violence one. I thought I was going to lose those for sure. And I knew that coming in. My goal was to be 2-2. I thought I killed the speed round. I thought I got all 3 points. And I also think I won the Ragnarok argument. But that's a different story for a different day. I'm a bit frustrated with myself. I could have done a better job. But at the end of the day, it's completely subjective. I still want the belt. I'm just a bit frustrated. That's all.
All right, and then there's that smile. Luca, what are your thoughts on today's match, man?
Well, I hope it's not going to end up being a tradition of mine to go 3-1, only need 3 points to win, and then go 2-0 down into the speed round.
That is the second time you've done that.
It's the second time in a row now, and I hate it, and it's stressful. I feel good. Maybe just from the victory side, I feel like all the calls, to me, they went pretty well. Even the ones that I lost, I think that's completely fair. I feel now that I'm out of it, energized. I feel like I'm ready to keep going. I want to do another one. I'm really looking forward to the Halloween match I have with Mike Hanley. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting and staying up at the top. I feel like I'm beginning to take this league by storm, and I intend to continue doing that. I'm passionate about movies. I love talking about them, and I'll just keep doing it.
And that is definitely clear for both of you. Again, I want to stress that no matter what way the point went, both of you guys were really good fighters today. I would say the only one, if I had to pick one fight that was pretty one-sided, it would probably be the Suicide Squad one. But even then, Evan put up surprising. Evan put up a way more surprising fight for that character than when I
was very
initially
impressed.
read who he picked. A fight for it. So there really wasn't that close a match. But guys, that'll do it for today's match. Once again, great game from both of you. Evan, where can the people find you?
At Evan DeGraff 15. Christian Harloff just followed me, sucker. So yeah.
You want to plug anything?
No, just follow me on Twitter.
All right, Luca, where can people find you?
They can't really. I'm a one social media dinosaur on Facebook. You can find me on here, kicking ass again, hopefully. I will be on a sort of companion, two companion shows. There will be Trivia and Battleground, run by Henry Sanchez. I'm going to make my debut there soon. Besides that, you can't find me. Leave me the fuck alone. I'm a private person.
That is
your
a fair
fucking business.
That's a fair point. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Aaron T. Knoll. Obviously, I participate in different things here on YouTube, as the aforementioned. There will be trivia I participate in.
Also, and you can also find me yelling at Aaron, but that's a different story.
All right. But yeah, so there's that. And then obviously, if this is your first match that you guys are seeing and you're not a part of the Movie Battleground Facebook page, I definitely recommend joining it. That's how you guys will get a match down the road. That's where you guys, any discussion that may happen on the page, you guys can get involved with it. That's where you guys will find all the direct links to the matches. So it just definitely helps you to be more involved in the league if you're on that page. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Support the league. Watch all the videos, like and comment, and just keep things active. On behalf of myself, Luca, and Evan, and all the other admins, all the admins here from Movie Battleground, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Movie Battleground.
Thanks so much.